Hey everybody, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
And on this week's show, we're going to review the movie Piranha 3D, and then we're going to get into unless John wants to talk about anything else, because that was really the one main film I saw this week. But if
how can you talk about how can anything compare to an intelligent, thought-provoking conversation about something called Piranha 3D?
Did you see Nanny McPhee?
Oh yeah,
you did.
They should combine the two and have piranhas eat Nanny McPhee. That would be cool.
And what were the other two this week that I missed? The lottery,
the Switch, and the lottery ticket. I didn't see Lottery Ticket because they showed it the same night as the Switch, and I just haven't had the energy to go back. And there's really, I didn't like either movie. I don't think there's anything to really talk about with either one.
I'm fine with that.
They were pretty terrible. Yeah. I do want to, it's funny. I was thinking about how we should approach talking about Piranha.
Well, wait, before you get into that, let me just quick, let us know what you think. Send us an email at postmoviepodcast@gmail.com. And if you have the time, we'd appreciate it if you checked us out on iTunes and left a review. Something to combat the one review that we've got up there. Our fan. Yeah, if you have anything nice to say about us or not, whatever, on iTunes, we're grateful. So. And always check us out at post-movie.net. That's where all of our shows are. And you can check us out on Facebook. And I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/SteveHead. So let's just get right into it.
Oh, yeah. I've been looking forward to talk about this epic.
It's like this body's been in the water for weeks.
I want to know what the hell this thing is doing in my lake.
Is that a piranha?
This particular piranha vanished 2 million years ago.
I'm thinking about closing the lake.
There's us, and there's 20,000 kids. You do the math.
Piranha hunt in packs. The first bite draws blood. The blood draws the pack.
I've been waiting for this all summer, and it delivered to me 10 times what I thought I was going to get. I was trying to think of what's the best way to approach something like this, because let's face it,
there's so much.
If it's a movie called Piranha in 3D, you pretty much know from the title whether you're going to go see it or whether you're not going to go see it. I just had so much fun, but it was only afterwards, Steve, that I realized just how bloody this movie is.
It was carnage. But John, before I get into it, I want to tell you, when I left the theater, and we usually talk after we see the movie, and then I got on my bike and I'm riding through Boston Common. I was giddy with happiness.
And so you should be.
I was giddy at thoughts of genital regurgitation.
It's not every movie you get to say that about either.
That was a rare one. That was definitely in your face.
Oh, it's the best use of 3D ever.
This best use of 3D may get them a lawsuit, because just before we started recording, I just read a piece on Joe Francis, who obviously Jerry O'Connell the writers based his character on.
Is he the Girls Gone Wild guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
He's threatening a lawsuit. And at the time of the interview, he had not seen the movie, but he basically says that, you can check it out online, that, if there's anything that compromises his image, he says that he's all for parody and whatnot, but there are a couple of things that Jerry O'Connell does that does take it over the top, and I can see that he would be incensed by this, so there's a war of words between the two, and probably a lawsuit. And it was also directed at the Weinsteins. And the Weinsteins had no comment on the article, but we'll see what happens.
It'd be interesting to see how that guy defends himself, besides the fact that the obvious, there's overt drug use by the Jerry O'Connell character. And yeah,
I guess that's what I was being, Sean. And it is amusing. It's funny.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. Let's give people a little rundown about, the quote-unquote plot for this thing. It's basically there's a lake out in Nevada, Utah?
It's Arizona. I think it's on sort of like on the Arizona-California border, but it's a fictional lake. They did film it in Arizona, apparently.
Right, Lake Havasu.
Yeah, but I think it's a fictional lake. I could be wrong. The name that's jumping to mind is Lake Victoria. But
something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's a spring break. Obviously, the police are overworked trying to keep all these drunk college kids from causing too much mayhem. There's a seismic event, and it turns out there's a prehistoric lake under the lake, and when the seismic event happens, there's a rift in the Earth's crust, and killer piranha come up and immediately start eating everything. That's all the plot you need. It's funny the parallels it has with something like Jaws, including the really hysterical opening scene with a very famous face.
Yeah, with Richard Dreyfuss. I want to say that, taking things back to 1978, 79, when Corman did his original Piranha, written by John Sayles, by the way, which is still surprising to me. That, of course, is, one of the just basically the Jaws ripoff. And it's interesting that I think there's a similar parallel in both films in that at the beginning of each movie, they directly reference the fact that this is a parody. They're not pretending that it's anything else. They're not saying egotistically that this is our own thing. We're basically in the wake of Jaws. So they do that in the first film with the girl playing an arcade game of Jaws. Right. And in this film, it wasn't even really amusing that it's just, basically referencing Jaws in kind of a cool way. But here in Piranha 3D, they go as far as it probably could go with referencing Jaws and Richard Dreyfuss at the beginning of this. And
I'm on the IMDb now, and his character is called Matt Hooper.
Are you kidding me?
No, according to IMDb,
that is Matt Hooper of the future. Holy shit!
He's an old retired guy who's out, catching bass in the lake. But the thing about the scene that, it sets the tone right away for the level of violence that you're going to see, although it really exceeds that later on, but it's still a pretty violent end for.
Yeah, and it makes sense with the song, with the tune that he's humming, that he's singing.
Oh, Show Me the Way to Go Home.
Yeah.
That famous scene from Jaws when he's comparing scars with Captain
Quint. I think that I would have appreciated more had the reference been more direct. Like if I had known as I was watching it that this is Matt Hooper.
Yeah.
As opposed to afterwards. It takes about a half hour to get going, but when it gets going into the gore fest, it is a decapitation potpourri.
Well, people think, people listening to this might think we're exaggerating, but this is probably one of the bloodiest things I've ever seen in a movie theater. And that includes all the Saw movies and the Hostel movies and all that, for all that torture porn. This isn't people being tortured, but it is people being eaten by giant prehistoric piranhas.
And if they're not being eaten by piranhas, they're being killed amidst their own mayhem from various other things. Everything just sort of steamrolls, but I guess we could get to that at some point. I mean, because maybe the short end framework of the story is the fact that Elizabeth Shue, she's a police officer. I don't know what this has to do with the water, other than that she's kind of like the Roy Scheider character when it comes to knowing that something's up and telling everybody to get out of the water, and they won't. She has a son who's, I guess he's a teenager. Anyway, it's interesting to note that he's Steve McQueen's grandson, and his name is Steve.
Really?
Yeah. Stephen R. McQueen, I believe. He's got the hots for this girl. This girl is being entertained by Jerry O'Connell's character and his entourage to do basically their version of Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah.
Because this summer community, this lake in Arizona is the spring break community. It is the spring break party place. So he's there to capture it all on film. And he's got a huge motorboat yacht, and they're going to go out on that. And everything, I guess this all takes place in the course of a day, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
a day or two. The rift, whatever, there's an earthquake. Was it an earthquake that caused this? Like a
seismic event.
Seismic event. So once these piranhas are released, and they attack Matt Hooper, and then they start making their way into the waterway, where this massive spring break party is happening. We, along the way, find out from Christopher Lloyd, who was a scientist, that these piranhas, they are not just any piranha. They are prehistoric piranhas, giant-ish eating machines. And it just basically becomes about them trying to get these college kids out of the water before it goes crazy.
And they don't do a very good job of it.
No, they didn't. It didn't happen.
It's funny because some of the movie, there are moments in the movie, and it's directed by
Alexander Aja.
He did. What else did he do? Mirrors.
High Tension.
Yeah. The Hills Have Eyes, the
Yeah.
remake of The Hills Have Eyes, and he did this thing Mirrors with Kiefer Sutherland. There are some moments in this movie that are just so painfully obvious what's going to happen. For instance, the large-breasted woman on the parasail who gets dragged through the water. You're kind of like, I know what's going to happen to her.
Yeah.
And it does, graphically.
This movie is so much about decapitations and seeing people with, oh my God, just seeing people with giant chunks removed from them.
Well, that's what I really wanted to talk about was, is it too much? Do you think the violence in this is too much? Or is it, you got to expect it because it's a modern day horror movie? Or did you find yourself surprised at how hard you were laughing at some of the violence?
Well, let me address that first as far as laughing when something super violent happens on screen. Generally, I think that's a person's way of dealing with something that they just don't immediately process. And what I mean by that is we know that this is horrifying, but we're just stunned by it, so we end up laughing, as most people do. So it sort of just becomes this some sort of safety response. We find it's so visually disturbing that all we can do is laugh. And there is a lot of that in this movie. As to whether or not it's too much, if me having to turn away from the screen a couple of times means that it's too much, that I just sort of went beyond squirming and had to actually turn away, particularly when that one moron kid took the speedboat across all the other bodies for about a good minute. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That was...
the girl who gets her hair caught in the propeller.
There are some real performance deaths in this movie. The girl that gets whiplashed by the microphone.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Crazy.
But,
But that's the draw of the film.
Right.
It's the morbid attraction to this particular entertainment.
The thing I liked about it, yes, it was intense and it was graphic. But it was never, and this sounds weird, but it was never mean-spirited, like when you're watching something like Hostel or the Saw movies where people are being tortured. These people were being killed by giant piranhas. Yes, I could get over that.
It has a high degree of humor.
Oh yeah,
that balances it out.
But I think it's the way the spirit. Yes, it is a graphically violent, but there's never that. Again, it's that thing about that torture porn that was so popular a little while ago. Watching people be, especially women being tortured for no reason except that whoever's doing the torturing is a sick mother.
Right.
This was, again, people died in horrible ways, but it had that fun spirit about it.
It has a laughable quality to it.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't think there's any real sense of dread in this movie.
Oh no.
I don't so much know what that amounts to other than like we know what's coming. There's going to be some amusingly shocking things that happen. I think unlike some of Alexander Aja's prior films, unlike them, they were very serious and mean and brutal. Like High Tension is brutal. But I think the actors who appear in this movie did it because they knew that it was very tongue in cheek and that it was not it just doesn't seem to have the same aura of the Saw franchise where it's just kind of like it's mean and just didn't seem as quality. This, for some reason, maybe it's because there's a number of semi-name actors here that lends a bit of name recognition, name quality to it, I suppose.
But also, you just get the feeling they're kind of like kicking up their heels and having fun. Why else would Richard Dreyfuss do something like this?
You're right. It's about having fun, and this is a midnight movie. This is a movie, with a late-night rowdy audience that they're going to love. It's a Snakes on a Plane kind of thing.
Exactly. That's what and this is, I think, this is what Snakes on the Plane wanted to be. Snakes on the Plane was an idea that, was so overplayed by the time it came out. And then you go see the movie and it's like really bad. The snakes looked fake and it was just all about Sam Jackson yelling. Nothing, you had to keep reminding yourself watching this that it was fake. Mm-hmm. And I still have flashes of, again, that girl who got her hair caught in the propeller was just horrifying.
That was extreme. Just, there's actual performances in this movie. Elizabeth Shue wasn't bad. She looks like she really worked out for this movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, she looks like she was in great shape.
Jerry O'Connell.
His is the performance of this film.
Oh, God, yeah.
He's like a live wire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then to watch him burn out as things go wrong.
Yeah.
Can't get the shot he needs. And then, the fact that he gets such a horrendous end, which, again, that one scene with what did you call it? Genital regurgitation?
That's what I came up with, yeah.
That was above and beyond everything you saw. I was like, wow, that 3D really worked.
This was an upgrade, apparently. It wasn't fundamentally 3D as I had originally thought. It was an upgrade.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it
Yes.
looks.
I could be wrong, but that's what I read yesterday. So yeah.
But the thing again, that could be one of those flight or fight reactions. That it was just so horrendous to see what happened that you kind of laugh and then you go, oh, look at the good 3D. I'm not looking at this severed member floating, in the water or being coughed back up at me by a giant piranha.
There is this minor story that I guess in a way is like the main story, but it's just so inconsequential with Steve McQueen's character, Jake, who is the whiner, who is in Star Wars terms the Luke Skywalker of this, and he's kind of got the hots for this girl, and it's basically, are they going to get together? Is he going to save her? It's so simple. And then, of course, the main thing about this movie is just the piranha attacks. But then they build this on just the thinnest of storylines, and then the thinnest of like escape scenes or rescue scenes, where they have to just like crawl across this rope, and the tension is as to whether or not they're going to fall off the rope, or the boat's motor is stuck in the seaweed, and is it going to get out in time, or the engine to the boat doesn't start. It's just so
the yacht that Jerry O'Connell's in, hits the rocks.
Right.
There were no rocks there 5 minutes before in the movie, but suddenly, they need to hit rocks. There's this
they just look built. They just look like a production design.
Oh yeah. I was laughing because there's a scene where the yacht is sinking, and
the yacht with the glass bottom view.
Right, yacht with the glass bottom boat is sinking, and Jake Forster, the Stephen R. McQueen character, comes up with this plan to distract the piranha so he can go in and swim and save his potential girlfriend. And we've seen shots of this inside this boat throughout most of the movie. Suddenly, when he's swimming underwater to go save her, you see 2 propane tanks that you never saw before. And they're like, front and center propane tanks. I was like, oh, he's going to blow up the boat.
Propane. Yeah.
And it's like, that's how obvious this all was. So obvious on so many levels. But I didn't care.
The fact that he would know that these things were going to swim in packs, and that like one body being thrown into the water as a diversion is going to divert 100 other piranhas to the other side of the boat. So when he dives in, it's just so absurd, and it's like absurd that I don't care. If the piranha stuff didn't work, if the carnage wasn't like insane and the piranha stuff didn't work, this movie would be crap.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is crap in its way. I mean, it's not. Crap. It's good crap. I'm just bewildered, and I shake my head in disgust at some of the things I've seen in this film.
Well, did you go back and watch the Roger Corman one?
I was watching it tonight. I saw some of it, yeah.
And I remember when that came out thinking how cool it was. But then you watch it with this, whatever, 20 years, whatever, how long it is. God, all the effects look awful. The blood looks like paint. The acting's terrible. I'm sure 20 years from now when they're doing Piranha and, 4D or whatever we'll have in 20 years, we'll look back on this and say, God, it was so stupid. Look how cheap it looks. But I think it'll be dated by next year.
It already is. In fact, the spring break scenes with the students and the DJs on the water and the dance music and stuff like that, and how they're ignoring the police, and they're sort of like one character unto themselves. Once Elizabeth Shue gets the real final notice, these people got to get the hell out of the water. It's like the students are all just one character. They all respond the same way. Like once they ignore something, the music just starts up again. And when it stops, it's actually pretty amusing. But it's like they just can't be deterred from their partying. They're dancing. That's all it is. It's just dancing and throwing and water skiing and what was that one girl? Paraskiing.
Parasailing, yeah. But the thing is, if they're guys, they'll do something stupid like they'll either jump off a big rock or do something athletic. If they're girls, they'll shake their booty. And 1 out of every 8 will take their top off.
Yeah, and there is gratuitous booty.
Oh yeah.
It's just the fact that this one girl would glide through the top of the water with her breasts hanging down, and then you see them float into the screen. Just 3D. It's just that's what it is.
What about that twisted ballet scene? When there's the two girls from Jerry O'Connell's boat are underwater.
Yeah.
Naked, and the whole movie stops, and this like quasi-classical music comes on, and it's just these girls doing this really lame synchronized swim naked, and it goes on forever, I swear. But you could feel everything stops, and it's just like leave the camera on. There's naked girls in 3D, And then, we'll go back to Jerry O'Connell, and he'll be saying out loud what we're thinking in our head, and everything's fine. It's just like,
it does have these all-consuming moments that are sort of separate unto themselves.
Oh, it makes no sense.
I think there's actually a portion of the film when Eli Roth's character is introduced as the MC of this
wet t-shirt contest.
Because basically there's a barge in the middle of the water, and it's where they're holding, it's where they've got the stage and the decks, and that's where he's doing his getting everybody up. And you knew he was going to meet some crazy end, and he does.
Yes,
it's almost like the way Eli Roth goes out, it's almost like a badge of honor, an honor kill.
If you're the producer and you're Eli Roth, you can say, all right, here's how I want to die intensely,
Oh, sure.
Sure. I want it to be different. I don't want to just be eaten by piranha. I want to have something that makes people, either squirm or cheer, depending on whether you like them or not.
I do want to say something about the filmmaker, Alexander Asha. It's High Tension was, it was a team production. Gregory Levasseur is his producing partner, and they had done The Hills Have Eyes and Ears and P2, and and they'd written these projects too. But this is the first project, Piranha 3D, that they did not actually write. It was written by the guys who wrote Sorority Row, which I did not see. But if I remember,
you missed nothing.
Starred Bruce Willis's daughter.
Rumor.
Yeah, so this is the first one that they've taken from other writers, but they're a quality producing team. They actually really do. I've liked their stuff. Really impressed with High Tension. This was, I think, certainly a step away from the serious, but if it's paying homage to the original in any way, that was too. There's a fair amount of humor in that. They, as long as they know what they're doing and we get it. Mm-hmm. Certainly not the atom bomb of awesomeness that Jaws was, but
no. This ranks as, a solid B, maybe C film. It's not trying to be art. It's just trying to be hugely entertaining, I think, and it works on that level completely for me. Would love to see it again.
You think there'll be a Piranha 2?
No, I'd go
Piranha 2 3D.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if this makes enough money, sure. Whether it, ends up going straight to video because of it, I don't know. But they've definitely set it up for in a fun way for a sequel.
Paul Scheer, who plays
I'm not helping.
Jerry O'Connell's assistant, totally to me that was
Andrew.
Like a cameo. He's just not used.
And you said he was from Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
Adam Scott's another one.
Adam Scott, love him, but he was very much a one-note. He's a
scientist. He's a seismologist who comes to investigate, and he basically shows up with two guys who might as well be wearing red shirts from Star Trek.
He's like the yin to Elizabeth Shue's yang. They're in this mission together to save everybody. He's kind of a one-note. He's a really funny guy. Loved him in Step Brothers and on Party Down. Absolutely. Dina Meyer was very underused.
They all were.
Ving Rhames.
Yeah.
The motorboat machete guy. He's on in the film for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, everyone has their little moment in here, and then they walk away with a paycheck. I think the only one who has anything more than, I'd say, 100 lines of dialogue is Jerry O'Connell. That's because he plays a coked-up madman who's speaking so fast you can barely understand him. But they're all, I think it's like a lot of things, that they definitely saw the humor in it and trusted the director to make it work, and had fun.
So you think this is worth $15-16?
Well, yeah. No, I think it's worth the $9 at a matinee.
I should say they did not screen this for the press.
No, they did not.
We didn't.
Thank you to John. Thank you to John at the Commons Movie Theater and Maddie at Allied for getting us in.
Yeah, they so it wasn't exactly the easiest of situations for us to be able to see this one on time, but apparently my assumption is that Weinstein's worried about it. They're worried that the press were going to come down on some of the gratuitous TNA and the violence, and it was just all I guess they could see that 1-star review happening, but
what I read in the Herald today, it got a B.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Brett gave it a B. I gave it 3 stars, I think, in my review for a Boston Event Guide. I didn't see one in the Daily News. I don't know if they did it yesterday or not. But generally positive reviews. It's it may be that they sent the right people to go see it. If you're going to send some uptight archy-farchy critic.
I would not have pegged Brett as the person that was going to give this a positive review.
No, he definitely liked it.
So did
we. Oh yeah. Too funny.
John.
Yes.
Pick of the week. Let's do it.
Okay. You go first.
I watched.
What did you find in your closet, Steve?
Well, that's kind of a fallback for me. There's a couple things that I could choose, but this week I went with a film called Power Kids, and this did not come from the plastic crates in my closet. This came from Magnet Releasing. And
okay.
Well, yeah, it's new. I wasn't aware of this movie until about a week ago. I saw that it was coming out, and I was like, geez, I'll check it out, see if it's any good. It's from the producers of Ong Bak 2, films which I'm sure you've seen.
Oh yeah.
It's called Power Kids.
Look out, little pussy. Out of the way, run! Hey! Fuck you! Movie time!
Cút,จะไม่รู้สอนได้ไหมอย่าเอาไม้ซีกไปงัดไม้ซุง
The action is terrific. It's about these 5 kids who are training under this Mai Tai master. They're orphans. Well, 4 of them are orphans. And they're training under a Mai Tai master. And one of the kids is not one of the fighters, but he's very young, around 8 or so, has a heart condition. And I'll just quickly set up the scenario here. There's a racetrack that one of the kids likes to go to, and they race these miniature cars, and it's kind of cool. And one of the girls who also becomes a part of the team, she's kind of like a miniatures mechanic. She's like maybe 10 or 11. She works with these cars at the racetrack. An argument breaks out at the racetrack. The kid with the overtaxed heart goes into something of a cardiac arrest. He has a problem. Basically, he's in a situation where he needs to have a new heart, like stat, or he's going to die.
Okay.
All right. Stepping back even further, and this relates to what is about to transpire at the hospital, is there is a group of rebels who take the hospital hostage at the very same time that this hospital has received a heart that can be used by the kid. At the same time the hospital has a heart that's ready to go to the kid. So it's kind of a violent attack scene. It's kind of a violent takeover here that these rebels do. Basically, they're trying to make a political statement. The American ambassador to Taiwan is in the hospital getting a heart checkup at the time, so they've used this opportunity to take the hospital hostage. But the kids, they don't care about that. They've got to break into the hospital, get this heart, get it back to their younger brother in 4 hours. And the scenes within which they do this are some pretty insane fighting. I mean, these are real talented kids. If you've seen Ong Bak, and even more relevant, I think, is Chocolat. Have you seen that?
Right. Oh, yeah.
The fighting style. Well, in Chocolat, there was one girl that could basically kick everybody's ass. But here, the kids team up 4 and 5 to be able to take down single guys. And this is in the middle of, like, some really serious gunfire and just, sporadic deaths and blood and explosions and, mature violence.
Yeah.
These kids are pulling their moves in. And the action scenes are pretty damn cool, too.
Very cool.
It's some real talent. You'll be amazed by some of the stuff that these kids do, like taking out some bad guys and smashing through the glass windows at the same time. And there's no stunt doubles here. These kids actually trained for a year before doing the movie. And, the more impressive scenes are shot in slow-mo, and you can really see the glass breaking, the kid's face hitting the glass.
The kid's breaking.
You can really see the kid nailing the bad guy in the chest, and they're sliding across the table, and they smash into a glass window, and you can actually see the glass hit the kid's face and shatter around it. And,
I just added it to my Netflix queue.
I think you'll dig it. There's a 10-minute making of on the video. There's 5 minutes of behind the scenes footage. Some pretty insane action.
Got it on. It's kind of on demand on Netflix. I won't get the extras, but
Is
I
it?
get to see the movie. Yeah. Just as you were talking about it, I searched for it and it came up. Added it to the list. I can watch it tonight.
Cool. It wasn't, to me, like, it wasn't really a surprise. I mean, I wanted to see this because I really liked Ong Bak and Chocolat. So this is, right up your alley if you're into that kind of thing. I digged it. No, I particularly digged this one fight scene where there's this, it's basically the first fight scene where they discover that they can really take somebody out. And so there's this drunk American guy that kind of walks into their orphanage, and their teacher in the orphanage is very specific about, Muay Thai is about unity and togetherness. It's not to be used to hurt anybody. It's not violence. So, they've had that welded into them. But when this drunken guy sort of disrupts everything and they've got to take him down, there's a part of this fight where they actually take steel rods and tie them to their arms and legs. So when they punch, it just adds the extra oomph of actually be hit in the face, with a steel rod. So they take this guy down. So,
cool. Well,
the entertaining violence.
Well, that was something, just describing it, it was something I would want to see.
Oh, yeah, John, you'll dig it. But I have to say, the real drawback to the movie is it is unusually sappy. I mean, there are just some over-the-top sappy scenes that it's just...
Did you cry?
It's just overly sentimental for a couple of long portions in the film. Chocolat was like that, too. Not Ong Bak, but Chocolat had these overly sentimental moments, an overly sentimental ending. There are a couple of long portions of this movie where it goes through that. So if you can put up with that,
just knowing that there's ass kicking to follow, I'll be able to, to last through any sentimentality or fast forward.
I think that go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if it gets too sappy, you can always fast forward.
There's, a history of Asian action films where, the kids really unleash the fury. This is not like whatever it was, those Three Ninja series, just really lame stuff. This is not like that. This is actually bloody, violent stuff, not for the younger set. It's kind of mature. It's R. It's not a kid's film.
So the kids who made it couldn't go see it.
Right. I need to stress that. This is not a kid's film. And I just looked at the back of the box. It is rated R.
That's like a movie I'm going to like. My recommendation for this week is something I had no clue as to whether I would like or not. I ended up loving it, and I only watched it because it got sent to me. It's called Temple Grandin.
My name is Temple Grandin. I'm not like other people.
Can you bring everything you've seen to your mind?
Sure.
Wow.
I have done everything that I can for Temple.
We know how different she is.
Different, not less.
I don't want my thoughts to die with me. I want to have done something.
Miss Grandin, this is a masterpiece.
I am so proud of you.
It's nothing short of a miracle.
Have you heard of this?
I have. I have not seen it.
Yeah, it's Claire Danes, who we might remember from the Mod Squad or My So-Called Life or Romeo and Juliet. She's been around for a long time.
Is this HBO home video?
This is an HBO movie about this woman who in like 1959-ish, she had, I want to say Alzheimer's, but it's not Alzheimer's. Autism. She had autism.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a story about this woman in the 1950s called Temple Grandin, and she had autism. And at the time, they weren't really sure, that what to do with people who had it. They were just basically, either put in a home or kept out of the public eye. But her mom won't put her in a home, and she actually ends up going to college. But the thing is, it's directed by Mick Jackson, who did L.A. Story. And he has this really cool technique where this one particular, her case of autism is that she sees in pictures. So she takes everything literally, like when she doesn't do well in French class because the way she hears the words, she comes up with pictures that don't make any sense to her. But when she sees something, the way her mind works, it's like problem solving, but all through pictures in her head. And she meets teachers who recognize this talent that she has. It's not totally negative, her sickness. They discover a way into it. Anyway, she studies animal husbandry in college, and she goes to a stockyard on a field trip, and everyone thinks she's losing it because, she can't stand the idea that the cows aren't, are going to be killed. But instead, it's just she's overwhelmed by this idea of how to make it better. She recognizes that the cows walk in a circle when they're content. And when the cowboy comes in and breaks up the circle, that's where they become agitated. They moo more. And so she comes up with a better way to herd cattle, and it's all about perspective. And again, it's not the kind, Claire Danes in a movie about a woman with autism, not really going to be on my hit parade.
Claire Danes, I think I last saw her in Stardust. But what makes this movie not like a TV movie? I mean,
I think it's the attitude, because you kind of, if it was done by a less talented director and screenwriter, it could have been one of those Lifetime weepers, like Kate Jackson is Temple Grandin, and she has it's a full flight. It just could have played in theaters.
Well, again, I'm slightly taken aback because I didn't think that this is something that would be high on your desirability to see.
Me neither. Me neither. Trust me.
And I mean, like last week with The Thorn in the Heart.
It's funny because the other movie I was going to talk about was The Good, the Bad, the Weird, which is something I loved.
Yeah. Did we talk about that during the IFFB?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Huh.
But I remember seeing it then, and that just came out on video. But because this Temple Grandin was just so different, and again, great cast. David Strathairn, if I'm not saying that right.
Yeah.
Strathairn is the professor who recognizes her talent and helps her use it.
Yeah, he's a terrific actor. He's been
one of those underrated heroes,
for many years. But he was recognized, I think, with an Academy Award nomination for Good Night, Good Luck, Good Night, the George Clooney flick.
All right, and this has Julia Ormond is Temple's mom, and it's great because it's one of those thankless roles, playing the mom who has to make these tough decisions, especially in that time period, what to do with her daughter. But one of my favorites is the fabulous Catherine O'Hara, who you'll remember from all the Christopher Guest movies.
Sure, I actually got to work with her for a little while. I was a second assistant cameraman on Betsy's Wedding, and she came to Wilmington, North Carolina I did 2 weeks of reshoots where she played Joe Pesci's wife, and so I had the neat opportunity to meet her and get to see her work, which was cool. I've always loved her since SCTV.
Well, she plays this Temple's Aunt Anne, who lives on a farm, and she's the one who really finds a way in through the walls that Temple has built around her and try to, open her up to and let the world know that, hey, she's really got good ideas here. We should, listen to her. So again, it's one of those roles where she's obviously a very funny lady and does a lot of comedies, but this is kind of it's not overly dramatic, but it's a dramatic piece, and she brings a lot of life into it. That's nice to see.
Julia Ormond's character, what is she?
She's her mom. Again, it's one of those thankless roles because a lot of her time is spent crying.
Boy, there was a time when I thought she was just quintessentially the most beautiful woman in the world, and I think that was in the Sabrina.
Yeah,
just stunning. Just so well.
She's still a lovely lady, and again, does a good job here. I encourage people to give it a shot, especially if you've listened to me and know what my movie tastes are like over the weeks we've been doing this. If I can say, I can publicly declare I like this movie, there's got to be something to it.
I'll definitely check it out. In fact, I think it's on HBO right now. I think I recall seeing it amongst the HBO on demand films, so I will.
I think it's been, I think it is because it's out on DVD this week. They're kind of pushing it, so you should be able to find it. And then next week you can come back and tell me what a wimp I am. That's fun.
Hey.
I did not mention tears, and last time I mentioned tears in the show, it got thrown back in my face. So I'll never make that mistake again.
Talking about the ladies, there was another. I think I'm going to mention this next week, but Mill Creek Entertainment. They have their multiple movie collection.
Oh yeah,
sets.
50 movies for $6,
something like that. Well, I got Big Screen Bombshells, 12 movies from Crown International. The providers of Grindhouse flicks. I haven't watched all of them yet, but John, man, the titles on this, I did watch Hustler Squad and Super Chick, and
see, why wouldn't you watch those?
They were this was really, really bad. I mean, not bad in the way that Piranha 3 is bad. Bad in the way that it's like sort of depressingly bad. but yet entertaining because, this is what it is. It's Grindhouse. And they're as entertaining for their titles and for the poster and for some parts of these movies. You can imagine that these were playing in just a flea-ridden snake pit of a theater in Times Square or something like that. And this was the jewel that was on the screen. And so there's that sort of ambiance to it, which makes it interesting. And the fact that some of these movies have no production value on screen and no production value in the transfer of the movie to DVD.
Well, there's that great line in, I think it's in Ed Wood where, Ed Wood gets his first job directing a movie and the guy says, I already got the posters. Just, I've got the posters. I've got the title. Give me the movie.
It is, John. It actually is. I mean, if you don't have the title, you don't have a hook, and you can't hang anything without a hook.
Right. And, I think it's something Mill Creek has always been good to me, and I love their, 50 horror movie packages, 50 horror movies for $10. But these are not the Criterion Collection
absolutely.
Restoration.
Far from the Criterion Collection.
Every bump and nick and scratch in the film is there for you.
You have to enjoy it for what it is. And then when you open the box set, they just the discs, the 4 discs, and just little
paper sleeves.
Yeah, it's just so.
Yeah, they sent me the
special
Hunter. Remember the TV show Hunter?
Yeah.
I got the complete. I think it was like 6 years worth of Hunter in one big box set, and you open it up, and it's just a stack of paper sleeves. No, I don't mind it because I don't want, if for those movies, I don't want them to spend a lot of money on making it pretty.
Still eager to see it,
Oh yeah.
I think what they should have done though is it's the posters that really kind of make these movies great. So like for Super Chick, it's an awesome poster. There's actually Galaxina is in the Blonde Bombshells collection, which is kind of a quality film that came out, in the the wake of Star Wars. It's the way that these films were sold to the midnight movie Grindhouse audience that it just makes them sort of intriguing. And the fact that maybe and the fact that Crown International is still around. It's such a low rent operation. They've got product and they're selling it and they're not putting a lot of time and effort into it like Criterion Collection guys would.
Yeah.
But hell, it's on video,
Yeah, you don't want to see Galaxina get the 2-disc Criterion Collection, $30 DVD.
Yeah, well, Star Crash has just come out, which was released in the time of Galaxina, and I am going to talk about that on another episode. I think it doesn't come out for another couple of weeks, but I was fortunate enough to get a copy of that, and I actually was kind of blown away. The movie is bad, but it just looks so beautiful. Okay, this is another conversation. So that's it for this week. Wouldn't you think, John?
Oh yeah, I would definitely say so.
Be sure to send us an email. Let us know what you think. We're at postmoviepodcast@gmail.com. And leave us a review on iTunes. I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/SteveHead. And, of course, we're at post-movie.net. And we're on Facebook. So until next week, I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
And this is the Post Movie Podcast. So long.